Greetings and salutations. Another On the 50 with Coach Moeller. These are things we've been doing for years, Coach, and I look forward to just having a conversation. Not an explosive interview. It's not how you do things. You keep it all at the same tempo. It's probably why your football team just goes out every week and does the same thing this last week. We all get excited about PH. I think you're excited. I just think this was just another corporate CEO approach. I loved after the game, everyone wants to watch the handshakes. Is there any and I go up to, Thomas after the game. He had such a good game and said something to you, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, gosh, man, we're waiting for something. Not much to talk about. Liberty Center 35-6 and a pretty complete victory. It wasn't perfect, and I know you spent some time highlighting the imperfections as you do, but just upon reflection, 35-6 over a really good PH team has to feel good.
Yeah, when you get out of the game, with a nice win, relatively injury free, you're pretty happy.
Yeah.
Then when you go back and kind of look at the film, then you start to look at, okay, here's where we got to get better, and here's where we made some mistakes. But it's just such a relief right after the game that you came out of there with the win, and against a great team like that that's well coached, that's all you can really ask for.
Even with the win, I think it's 7 in a row, maybe, or maybe it's 8. I'm not sure. I never get those right. Consecutive winning streaks, is it 40, 41? These are great debates to have, but those just aren't that important to you, and you never talk about them, so why are we going to talk about them? But I would say that the specter of a Bill Inselman coach team has left scars on a lot of us. I coached on some staffs that we just couldn't get that done, and you've gotten that done. Whether I think you're 7-1, maybe you're 8-1 now in your 9 years. This is your 9th year, right? Or is this your 10?
I think.
Now you're approaching the 100th win mark. I'm trying to do the math on all those things, but it's been a struggle. You've had to be on point. Your staff understands the importance of a game like that, but you're not having the kind of issues with this game probably because your approach. And talk about that, because I guess we all want to see something, but you want to see wins. And what your formula for wins has really worked, and it's been keeping the emotions even and steady, doing the work. The results will follow. Talk a little bit about how you're able to control all that when some of the fans can't. Nick said this week, we're good. It's the fans get all fired up. Well, it's a big game community. How do you stay there?
Well, I guess for us, we want to approach everything every week, every practice. We talk about we're preparing to beat the best,
Right.
so that when we get to these games, we're comfortable with them. We're not trying to practice harder this week because we have a big game. I think when you do that, you've missed your chance to approach the game the right way.
And you're riding all the time.
And you can't raise your level of play in 1 week of preparation. So, we go all the way back to May, June, July, and we don't have big long 3-hour practices in those areas, but the time that we do have, we want high quality. We're preparing to play Sean Terry. We're preparing to play the Elkert brothers. We're preparing for Braden Richards type players that are extremely high level, because if you don't do that, when you get to them, you're not ready and you can't mimic it. And it's a challenge to do that. And that's what we're paid for, is to try and create that level of practice and preparation. But I think that's probably one of the things that has allowed us to have some success in bigger games like this, is because we talk about that you guys are ready. This is what we've been preparing for. Nothing that week at practice changes as far as what we're doing, other than we may back off physically, the taxing stuff that can wear your body down. So I think that approach has probably helped us be ready for those type of games.
I think Reed Krieger maybe was the wide receiver that didn't play this week. Their big play down the field threat. Some inside information. Bergstrom Barrett of all said this week Jack Badenhop really got Ethan Gray and those guys ready. I mean, obviously Jack Badenhop on our team, pretty fabulous athlete. We've talked about the importance of scout teams, but like you said, sometimes it's hard to mimic an elite athlete like a Reed Krieger. Now, he didn't play this week. I think that changed the complexion a little bit of how things go for Patrick Henry. But talk about the preparation. When you have a Sean Terry, you have a Reed Krieger. Obviously, last year you had to prepare for an elite Big Ten athlete. How do you do that when you don't have those people necessarily? Although Jack Badenhop, again, next level, had
Right.
a great week of practice, and I think it helped Ethan a lot. Talk about that.
Well, like you said, we can't recreate Sean Terry's athleticism, but if we can mimic the size of somebody, and that's kind of what we did with Jack Badenhop. He's a 6'3", very athletic kid. Reed Krieger, 6'3", very athletic kid.
Yeah.
Just seeing that size in practice a lot of times is going to be beneficial. How do we need to position our bodies and things like that when the ball's in the air? Um, and so Jack did a great job. He's a great athlete and really prepared us for that. And then if obviously Reed wasn't able to play, but our guys were ready for that
Yeah.
when the time came. And down the line, we're going to need that again at some point. Um, we spend time Sunday night in meetings going over, okay, on scout team, who's going to be this kid? Who's going to be this kid?
Yeah.
And you try to find your best fit that you have available. And you again, you can't mimic the great athletes, but you can take your best that you have and use them. Logan C. Fuentes is a kid that has been playing a lot of scout team defensive line just because he's a varsity starter at a very high level. And when you're playing against guys that aren't typically varsity starters, they're not going to give you the look that you're going to see on a Friday night. But Logan can do that for us, and he's not playing a lot of offense, so he battles on the scout team. And we do have some good scout team linemen that can
For
give us
sure.
great looks, and we feel like we've got kids on our scout team that could play for a lot of teams on a Friday
I
night.
don't think there's
So
any
that
doubt,
that
about
definitely
that.
helps. You can't always mimic it, but it's that preparation that I think gets you ready.
I think with Reed's absence, it changed the complexion of this game a little bit. We're so good against the run. The front three have been fantastic. You get elite play out of your linebackers, and Jiggs and I just keep noticing the tackling. Some of your tackling leaders on Friday. Of course, you're going to see that in a passing offense and attack, but really getting guys to the ground. I mean, Ethan Gray, top-notch tackler. Sonnenberg, a good-looking tackler. You're getting tackling from your snipers. I mean, the tackling in that back end of your defense has been fantastic.
Well, we put a big emphasis just on tackling at all levels and different types. We every Monday we have a tackling circuit that we have 4 or 5 stations where you're going to every station and doing some different type of tackling. With us, it's a lot of open field tackling. Linebacker coaches do more of a closed space. D lineman is a little bit different, but we're tackling pads. We've got the big tackle wheels and things like that. It's not live tackling, but we're working on the fundamentals of tackling. And then, Tuesday, Wednesday in our drill groups, at least, with my position, we always have some small tackle drill in there. So we do a lot of practice on the tackling, and the idea is if you don't miss tackles, you're going to give your defense a fighting chance to stop an opponent. And I think we've done a good job of tackling at all levels of our defense so far this year.
We don't always like to highlight individuals, but I think in these kind of shows, when you have 40 minutes, you can talk about certain kids. And I try to this week, every week, it seems like you have different kids stepping up. So you've had a variety of conversations throughout the season, and there was a couple of just phenomenal performances. Jiggs and I talk about we've lost these state title games because I think there's one player that is just better than all your players that make that play that it's just so difficult to defend. We've seen that with Sean Terry. We saw that the year before against Perry. South Range was a little bit different. That's been a while ago now. But I think we may have a guy like that finally, like a guy that, talk about Mr. Footballs and all those things, but I think a Garrison Cruz, is a special athlete. And we know Kellen Weimer is being recruited to play Major D1 football, size, projectability, but the day-to-day production you're getting from Garrison Cruz, both on offense and defense, is really kind of next level. And you'd have to say that. And you've seen in all your coaching years a lot of good players, the Matt Leiningers and some of these guys that were, Jesse Smiths that were Division I athletes. Garrison Cruz might be that guy because it looked that way Friday that PH didn't have an answer for that guy.
Yeah, Garrison's got a great combination of size, speed, strength, balance, just all those things you want in a skilled player. He's got the right mentality.
Where's he get that from? You think Colton and Trenton have something to do with that?
I think
No slight Logan, but Colton and Trenton raising him a little bit.
I think he's been through the ringer most of his life with those three. But, he's a special athlete, and he's still just a junior, but he makes a huge impact in the game.
Yeah.
And if we can get him to level 2 and level 3, the odds are in our favor usually.
Yeah.
So we have to be a little bit creative with him. And good things typically happen when the ball's in his hands, and then defensively, he's probably just as good there.
He really is.
He's a physical kid, strong, and, his work ethic is great. And that's what makes him special. There's probably a lot of kids walking around with his size and ability, but if you don't have the work ethic to go with it, you don't see the production in game, and that's where I think he sets himself apart.
He certainly made one of the key plays. I look at 3 or 4 or 5 plays a game. I'm sure you do too. Go back and watch the play that he missed the pick, but the elevate the way he did, and then Old Crew again with a pick six. And exciting to see your defense. And I know you like to call the plays, and I get that, as did Rex. But in your heart, you're a defensive coach. You really, that to me, that's been your whole career. You do a great job of calling plays, Case, but getting a defensive touchdown, I think you made a comment this week in one of the papers about, but that's a big deal for us.
Oh, absolutely. And the kids know it, and we incentivize that. These guys know if they get a defensive score, they're going to get rewarded. The greatest thing about that play that JT scored on is Garrison gets the tip. He made the play. JT reaped the benefits of it being in the right spot. But to see the rest of the guys just try to escort him down the field, as soon as he got it, there's 4 guys just sprinting, and then you see Jackson Lonzak come flying in there looking to block somebody so we could get in the end zone. Very, very unselfish group, and I think that's what makes them special. But be in the right place, make plays when you can make plays, and we all reap the benefits of that.
So Reed Krieger not in this game. You get an early defensive score, 2 pretty big developments. And then you go to work on defense. I really felt like this was a defensive game, and we were under 300 yards, I think, total yards. We knew PH was stout, inside run. There was a lot of off-tackle, outside run kind of scripted and planned for this game. But I got to tell you, Logan Cifuentes is impressive. He wins this week the Swanton Welding Man of Steel. He has been in the conversation, Mark Bly would tell you, about every week. Talking to Nick, early in the season, and Todd and those guys, they knew we had a wrestler, low center of gravity, strong as an ox, but boy, he has really turned it up a couple levels.
Well, I think without a doubt this was his best game
no
of his career. But he's one that's an unsung hero.
He is.
He just does all the dirty work inside. He's taking on 2-3 blockers and just gumming things up in the run game. And if you look at our run defense, it's the strength of our team, period.
It is.
And, Coach Inselman made a comment, we basically made them one-dimensional. And, we've got a whole stable of guys we can play there, and they all do a great job. And he's one that has embraced his role, knows what it is. But when you see your nose guard, flying out on the perimeter, making tackles on bubble screens and things like that, he's playing at a high level. And Logan, hopefully can continue to get better. And I kind of joked with him. I said, you set the bar pretty high. Now this is what we expect every week. And that's the challenge, is the consistency. Everybody can do it maybe once or twice, and now we expect that out of him all the time.
You take the fun out of it, man. Gosh, you're like, gosh, I got to do that again, Coach? Well, that's the idea. That's what kind of life is. You just sit there on a couch every day. You got to do it better every day.
Right.
You do it in education. We're all pressed to do that, but Logan Cifuentes has been fabulous. Also, we talked about Garrison Cruz. Hunter Spangler in there is pretty awesome too.
Oh.
There's never an MVP in your kind of teams, but if Hunter Spangler he might be a Division I football player. He's going to go Division I throw, but he is fantastic on both sides and so smart. You can just see his head. You can just see him working through responsibilities and reads. And what a player you've got in Hunter Spangler.
Oh, well, he's another one.
Player.
Work ethic.
Yep.
Great teammate. Is probably going to throw the shot put in college, but I think there are some D1 schools that are missing out on a guy that can play. Take your pick, center or D line. He's got a great frame on him.
He reminds me a little bit of Blake Lindgren. Blake made his bones maybe in the defensive side, and they converted him at Wake to center, and he was really good. I think you're the same thing with Hunter. He's got that size, and he's not slow and sloppy.
No.
He's explosive and athletic.
Well, he's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when you throw the shot put over 60 feet, you've got some power, and he uses that really well in football, I think. But just a great player, and a guy, team him up with Kellen and Logan, and there are not a lot of offensive lines that are going to move those guys.
No, they haven't been either, and that's been a great part of our, and we could talk about, we just get out, go, there it is. There's 10 minutes on the defensive line. Let's get off to the offense a little bit. He's my son, and he has had his struggles, knee injuries, and he's had some injuries, but I have been very impressed, I think, as has lots of people, with his blocking. He kind of comes for that. I get reminded that Chambers, background, everything he does well is from the Chambers, not a shock. Rex Lindgren has a Chambers in him. But the fact is, those Chambers kids have been great wings for you for a long time. Leighton and Christian and Colton have been fabulous. Baxter loves that role. I think I'm starting to see him blossom really well as a blocker.
Well, he's got kind of what we look for there. He's hard-nosed and tough, and he's got a skill set that he can block,
Yeah.
he can run, he can catch. And when you kind of put all that together, he can be a weapon in the pass game and in the run game, and whether he's running the ball or blocking, and is getting better and better every week, and that's what we need. And he'll continue to get better, I think, as the season goes on, with every rep and just learning from our footwork and our angles and things like that. He brings an element to us that we had last year, and anytime we've been really good offensively, you look at that spot, and they don't always get a lot of touches, but they're so valuable with what they do and what they can do, and you can use them. And I think, they surprise teams when they get the pass thrown to them or they get a reverse or something like that. It's really opens things up for them and for the offense.
I wanted to get into Thomas Moeller because I thought that was his best game as an offensive back, as a halfback. He's kind of our Mr. Inside, and not outside necessarily Garrison. He can run inside, but he's strong, tackle out, a little bit like with the Keith Kern-Ward combo in the state championship group, the runner-up there in 93. Those two guys complemented each other well. These two complement each other. We did that last night. We had a big Thomas Moeller night, so we won't delve too much into Thomas, but great game by Thomas, both sides of the ball, over-the-shoulder catch. Fabulous. But I did want to talk just briefly about how good is Sawyer Bachman going to be? I mean, we're in the booth going, how good is that dude going to be when he continues to grow into that body, into that mentality?
Well, I think he's just scratching the surface of what he's capable of. I mean, he's just a sophomore. He's played 6 varsity games in his career. But obviously, physically, he's got the tools. He's got, he's 6'4", he's 260 pounds, 255.
And can move. And
he still has room to get bigger if he wants to, and certainly stronger. Probably at the beginning of the summer, end of the school year, we did some testing in the weight room, and it's like, he's not his brother. By the end of the summer, he was like, he's where his brother was, or further, strength-wise. Size-wise, he's already taller. As a sophomore, I think Landon was maybe 230 pounds, so he's 25 pounds bigger than what he was. But huge ceiling on him, and once he gets it all figured out, he's going to be very, very good for us. And you can see he doesn't play a ton of defense, but he's made a huge impact on defense. It's like he's a sack machine.
Yeah, as a down lineman, we call them defensive ends, but in any other vernacular, kind of a defensive tackle 3 technique.
Mm-hmm.
He is a sacker in there. He's like Joe Klecko in there. Like, he is really effective with his hands and his technique.
He's got big, powerful hands, which as a D lineman, if
moving people,
you can get a hold of people and manipulate them, and him throwing bales around all summer, him and Logan. I mean, you see that on the defensive line. That should be the workout program, is go bale hay all summer.
I think I might pay. I might have paid some admission to watch those two get mad at each other and get to it. Don't want any part of it, but those two could get to it, I'm sure. And I'm sure that Sawyer's got it. Like I said, big ceiling. And those are the kind of players that keep Nick Miller from retiring and going coon hunting all winter. So, Nick, I hope you're listening. Sawyer Bachman, you see him every day. Great player. Liberty Center, great win against Patrick Henry. And just we've continued on. That's a rivalry that seems to be dominant on both sides. Everybody goes on these big runs. We're on one, and it's a fabulous run to be on. Let's talk about Evergreen a little bit. And obviously, one of the concerns that people like me that are semi-uneducated, are we going to get down? We talked about it before we went on air a little bit here. We won't spend a ton of time, but for whatever reason, and I like your metaphor of the Bermuda Triangle, I coached a long time, and Rex and I would just talk about why is it just so hard up there. Now I know we've had good success and we do win a lot of games there. It never looks good, and it's always somewhat of a struggle. What do you attribute that to?
It's hard to pinpoint.
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, I mean sometimes this week our challenge is we just came off a big rivalry
Yes.
win. Can you stay at that level? But for whatever reason, over the years we haven't always had Evergreen after a huge win like that. Sometimes it's been early in the season. It
Yeah.
just seems like I don't know if it's the bus ride or what, but we haven't always played our best there. And part of that's probably Evergreen. We talk about we're going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And they're very skilled. They have been. They were well coached last year, the last couple years.
Coach of the year last year. They went to Northview.
Yeah, know what they're doing. They've got good athletes. They've had good size in the past. That's given us problems here and there. And so whatever it is, we got to get it figured out and make sure that we're ready to go this week because they're a 5-1 team and they're chomping at the bit. They would love a signature win, especially at home.
Oh, 5-1, and you know what winning is like. It's contagious, and there's momentum. And now you got Liberty coming in, feeling pretty good about themselves. And a lot of teams, I think, would feel pretty good about themselves. We've got no reason not to. This has been a routine, though, having this early success for us. But I like Evergreen's quarterback. This last week, Tristan was a good quarterback. He's a drop-back passer. He sat in the pocket. He made good throws. That's what he does. This cat reminds you of some throwback kind of guys, the Fran Tarkingtons, if you will. I know, older reference, but a guy that can create all kinds of plays, getting open, hard to sack, hard to get him down. I mean, he is a unique guy.
Yeah, he's kind of a dual threat guy and can buy time.
Yep.
Just very athletic.
Yeah.
And does a really good job in their scheme. And then when you pair that with some of the other athletes they have around there, the Will Reitz kid is a track star.
Yeah.
Quentin Eisel might be their best athlete. He can kind of do everything: run, catch, whatever. But they've got a lot of skill guys around him. But the quarterback, is a returning starter, so he's got a lot of experience, and you can see he just gets better every game. They're throwing the ball a little bit more this year, and he's doing a really good job of running their offense.
I like all that. They've got good-looking receivers. They run good routes. I mean, where maybe the offensive defensive lines maybe isn't the focus of this football team, their skilled guys are all over the place. These guys win track league titles every other year. I mean, you go to a track meet, you've been to plenty in your day, they're winning league meets on the boys' side. I always amaze how many athletes they've got up there. They're good in basketball. They've been very good there for generations. So to me, I just feel like this Evergreen team presents a ton for you to have to prepare for. Unfortunately, our back end of our defense has been great, but I think defensively, it kind of rewinds me back to the old Otsego game over there, that 9-0 deal where that back side of their defense really kept Otsego in the game. Evergreen has those kind of athletes.
Yeah, they can run around and make plays.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. When you've got a group that can do that, anything can happen because of their athleticism and their skill. So, we have to play a good game. We can't just bank on, they're going to not play well. They got playmakers, and they're playing with confidence. The more you win, the more confident you get. If they can hang around with us in the first quarter, it's going to be a long game because they're going to just start believing they can knock us off, and then they start playing harder and that type of thing. And like you said, it's contagious.
Well, you don't want to make a mistake early and give Evergreen any momentum. This is a 5-1 football team. We are on the road coming off a major W against a big-time rival. Liberty Center travels to Metamora, a.k.a. the Bermuda Triangle. I love that. That's an older reference, but, I mean, this is where airplanes fly in and don't return. We don't want to do that when we get up to Metamora this week. Excited. Liberty Center, a 6-win team, not 6-0. That is a sin here. We don't talk like that. So we're anxious to see what Liberty can do this week. So tune in to LC Tiger Sports Live this week. Coach, great luck in preparation. Keep guys healthy, and well done.
Thank you.